So what Rick and I were saying is at the end, like, for one, Crosshair takes the shots at the ship, right? He totally intentionally misses these shots. Okay.
I didn't really think of that when I saw it.
Dude, look at him. Look at him. Because you got to think, it's right after, like you said, he heard you. Like your initial theory was he heard the speech and it got to him. This is immediately after the speech,
Yeah, there you go.
so it plays into your theory. I don't think it's so much that is. I think that would have had an effect, but it's not like the effect. But I think the scarring he has right next to the inhibitor chip is what's
affecting
him.
him.
I mean, like. But frankly, too, I was thinking about this kind of during this like scene and everything too, especially. Order 66 was essentially to turn on the Jedi. These people
it was a specific.
It was a very specific.
Yes,
These are not like I wouldn't think Order 66 would really extend to like obeying every Imperial order,
right?
Like, in all honesty.
Well, that seems to be the biggest hang up is like Order 66 was specifically to not have any qualms about turning and killing the Jedi. That was coded into them that when Order 60, it's like somebody that's been hypnotized and like you'll drop your pants every time you hear the word sassafras. And like, so, every time somebody hears it, they see it. So psychologically it's buried deep in their subconscious and they don't even kind of consciously know they do it or did it. So that's how I always felt about Order 66.
Exactly.
That look.
Like, did you see the look? Plus, we're talking about Crosshair here. He wouldn't have missed these shots. It's a big ass ship flying right in front of him.
Right. At the same time, like, what good would have even done?
Right there.
He is
thinking. The look.
The little eyebrow raise.
Yeah, like he does not look angry. Like we've seen him angry before. He
was
like
sad.
Yeah, exactly. This was internal like sadness, like
struggle.
Because then like it just extends further to this scene where he does it again. So what we're saying is like he's gonna obviously hunt him down, but I think he's gonna
look at that face.
He's gonna stay with him.
Yeah.
And then they're gonna try to take down the Empire. Maybe. I don't see why they would, because they like obviously wouldn't be able to win that fight. But maybe
that is the look of a.
That's the same exact look he gave on top of that bridge.
Thinking deeply.
That's the same look.
That is a look of like I want my brothers back.
Exactly. I miss my bros. And then my other bro just made a very good point that we swore to protect these people, and now we're doing this.
They didn't sign up to like enslave entire planets.
We literally just left here freeing this entire planet from separatist insurgents, and now we are the insurgents. Like, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing? Like, there's many episodes of Clone Wars dedicated to Ryloth and Cham. So, like, they know about it. They've been there. I don't know if the Bad Batch particularly ever went to Ryloth, but nevertheless. So, yeah. I do find it kind of like a boring way to make him go back to them. Like, I was hoping for a little bit more. Like, if that's indeed what happens. Because we don't... Mainly because we haven't really spent a lot of time with Crosshair.
Yeah, we don't really know what's been going on.
Yeah, we don't know if he's like... How long's he been struggling with this?
They showed one of the early episodes he was like struggling with it.
Yeah, but then like after that, we saw him try to kill them on the planet where he got burned.
I feel like every time, though, he's had a chance to kill them, though, he doesn't really take it too seriously.
I feel like when they were on that scrap planet, he took it pretty fucking seriously.
That's true.
Like,
he did, like, almost burn alive.
Yeah, like, I think he was taking, and he was chasing them down, like, personally in a starfighter, trying to blow them up on the exit. Like,
yeah.
I think he was definitely taking that shit seriously. But as time's gone on, he hasn't. Like, at least now, all of a sudden, he's like, he's kind of just against it. And like, since we weren't really with him on this journey, it's kind of, if he just like randomly turns, it's just kind of like, oh, okay.
Right.
Like no convincing from the Bad Batch. You don't really get to see him evolve and like want to do it. Like, it is what it is. It's kind of something I felt like either inevitably he would have reunited with them and been on their side, or he probably would have died. One of the two. So I don't know. What are your thoughts, John? You thinking something different?
No, I mean, I think I think he'll end up back with them at some point. It's an interesting show. It's not a bad show. It's good. I like it for the most part. It's just it, it's hard to be. I find it kind of a little hard to invest in it because they don't have it doesn't play into the bigger story. Like, it's the problem with doing prequels is that you're kind of boxed in with what came after already. So like you know that the Bad Batch doesn't go on to, free Luke Skywalker and Han Solo at some point later on in the series because it
Right.
never happened in the original trilogy. So what they need to find is like those untold tales that actually can factor in and mean something to the overarching narrative of the empire being taken down. And I don't know if that comes in the form of later on, like they tell these individual kind of one note or not one note, these kind of individual small scale stories about the Bad Batch kind of finding their place within I assume finding their place within the rebels. And kind of being on the outside of the empire, and then eventually at some point they are responsible for diverting resources away from the empire at the Battle of Endor, and like the empire, because you think about it, like when you think about as overwhelming as the rebel forces were at the Battle of Endor, they weren't overwhelmed the way you would think a galactic empire against a band of rebels was.
And some
Like,
Ewoks.
I and some Ewoks, yeah, yeah. You would just think that you take an entire galactic empire fleet and put it up against the rebels, who you have to assume put all their forces into that one shot. Like, maybe the Bad Batch were off doing something somewhere else to divert some empire resources or something, and it just wasn't essential for Jedi, so we didn't hear about it. But maybe it, is something that they could play up later on, or any number of other events that happen throughout the Star Wars saga. Like, just find a place to slot them in as some sort of
I have another theory
other
too, by the
thing.
way.
Well,
I think the guy said that apparently the ending of the Bad Batch made the musical producer cry, like it was that sad. I bet you Hunter ends up sacrificing himself to save Omega. What do you think about that?
I don't know. Maybe.
I mean,
It's
I
gonna be
could see it.
sad. Yeah, like I don't want to like spoil it, but I mean like that would make sense to
Well,
me.
is this a limited series? They're only doing these 16 episodes, or is there going to be another season?
You would think it'd be a limited series if I don't know. Like I just don't really see much happening after like the end of it. Like I feel like something's gonna happen because you never really see or hear from him ever again.
Well, yeah, but
Well,
like they were kind of like this ghost unit. Like they could have been like around like for a long time. Like you don't know. Like
Yeah,
John was saying. I
yeah,
mean, like Rex ended up like at the end of Rebels. Ahsoka says that Rex fought in the Battle of Endor.
right.
Like his like, he was there. Right.
yeah.
So I
People
mean, they
actually
could be
say
there.
there's a guy that people say is Rex in Return of the Jedi, and apparently it's not. But Dave Filoni has said on record this guy's name is Nick Sant, and he looks just like Rex. He's like an actual person. And Dave Filoni said something like, "If you want it to be Rex, it's Rex."
Yeah, he was
Yeah.
there, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
He's just an old guy with a white beard, and
it literally. Yeah, I mean, it does look like it.
yeah, and Rex he was an old man with a white beard
You
at
see him
that
for a
time.
whole
So
like 10 seconds, but
yeah,
See, I thought this series was basically their new version of Clone Wars. I thought for sure this was an ongoing, and
that's
I
what I
always
was
thought,
thinking.
like, Rick, you've mentioned, or not, I'm sorry, Rob, you've mentioned a few times that um you're wondering like what the story's about, what's all this about, like what's the overarching story. And my impression now that I'm caught up is that the story has something to do with Omega. It's always been alluded to that Omega is special for some reason. The Geonosians want her back really bad. They made a female version. Obviously they want her back because her DNA is pure, a pure source. But I feel like they made a female for a reason. I feel like that plays more heavily into the story later on. And so I just assume like maybe we get the reveal of what's special about her being a female version of the clones, and that maybe she has some sort of maybe she's attuned with the Force because she's female or something. There's some sort of genetic marker that they were only able to graft onto females for some reason
Right.
to
That's
make them attune
possible.
with the Force or something. Like I don't know. I'm just throwing stuff out there to make it more Star Warsy, I guess. But like I always assumed that we'd get some sort of reveal at some point, and I assumed it would come at the end of the series or this season about
Well, we
It's-
why
already
what
kind of
what's in
got
it.
like the answer for Omega though, because like they say that like there's only been two pure sources of Django's DNA, and one was Boba Fett, who they called Alpha, and then they had Omega. But they say Boba Fett's been missing for X amount of time, so like to them, that they're the only Omega's the only source of that DNA. So like
Right.
that's her purpose.
Yeah, yeah, that would be a little underwhelming if that becomes the crux of their desire to get her back. Just because they've already got the DNA, they've got the DNA broken down, they've got the DNA, cloned to make new clones. Like I'm not, they've been making clones for decades now at this point, centuries maybe, depending on how long the timeline is. But
Well, they're saying that they no longer have enough DNA to actually make any new ones, so that's the problem. Like
Yeah.
all the clones they have now, they
they
just have
need they need they need a pure source of DNA to make the clone. Like what they
to
extract one
continue
cell at a
making them.
time.
Yeah, they just need the genetic material itself. So, like, from my understanding, they haven't been able to make any new clones, essentially.
Yeah.
Like,
See
for some
I
time.
just don't I just don't understand that entire concept. Then like they didn't take a piece of Django every time they made a clone.
Oh yeah, I know. Like, it
That's
feels
yeah.
like something
So
they're just shoehorning in to like further a plot.
Right.
Like, oh, we
yeah,
need the code, we need it because of reasons, like. But I mean,
okay,
I guess it makes sense if like he gave them X amount of genetic material, so they were able to make X amount of clones. I guess. I'm guessing what they're
Yeah, there's like a
trying to
limit
say.
to how many you
Yeah,
can
like they
make.
can only stretch it so far. Like it's kind of what they've been implying and saying. Like, but my whole complaint with it is just like you have the thing with Omega and the fucking Camoans wanting her back. Then you have the rise of the Empire. Then you have whatever the Bad Batch is doing with Sid, and then you have the stuff on Ryloth now. It's like,
Right.
what is the main point of the show? Like, is that still is not been answered? Like, we even had Cad Bane show up now. And
Right.
it's like
Finnick fan.
all these things have came into play, but like, well, then the Crosshair thing. So it's like there's all these individual storylines, but then there is no overarching like plot to it.
Right.
It kind of feels like it's weird because like you have those shows like X-Files and Supernatural and things that were like
X-Files.
very much just a monster of the week show,
Yeah.
but they had like an overarching plot.
Yeah, there was like
they had a
a
main
story
story
to it.
arc for each season. This doesn't really have that. It is just kind of like here's the Bad Batch and
This
we're
is
going
their
on our
adventure of the
thing.
week. Like,
Yeah. Because even Mandalorian, which was very much a very monster of the week kind of thing, like what are they doing? His purpose was Grogu, like protect Grogu, find the Jedi to give Grogu to, and etc. But this doesn't really have that. Like it's like at this
yeah,
point, it's like I guess keep Omega safe,
that
but
you
like
would
that's
think
it.
that's like the
Like because like there's just so much more interesting stuff they could be doing with it. Because like I like the show.
it doesn't have it just like you were saying, like it just doesn't have much direction yet.
Yeah, like I just don't know. Like I wish they would just zero in on something and just kind of flush it out.
Yeah.
Like like Tarkin was in it at some point. Like the Rise of the Empire, Camoans needed the clones. Like we have all these loose threads, and none of them are really being like focused on. Like so, I just hope at some point. That's the thing too. There's only like 4 more episodes left at this point.
Yeah.
So
There
like
yeah.
I don't know. I just don't know what they're gonna do. But I
Yeah, it'll
like
be
the
interesting
show.
to see.
Like I still like it. It's definitely the best looking Star Wars animation show that's
Yeah, I would
been a
definitely say
thing.
it's the best looking.
Yeah. I went back and watched like the OG Clone Wars animated movie. Like, boy, that movie was like looks like it was made on a PS1 engine. Like, it does not look good.
Oh yeah.
It does not look good at all. It's weird when they made the movie. and somehow the show ended up looking better. Like, even, like, right out the gate, like, season 1 of the show, like, actually looked better than that movie did.
Yeah.
But the movie was really no more than just, like, 3 episodes combined into 1 hour and a half long thing or 1 hour thing.
What was
but
like the main points of the movie? Like,
I don't even remember. It was pretty it was pretty forgettable.
yeah, it
Like,
wasn't like a huge plot
Like,
point or
Athaj
anything like
was
that?
in it, and, like, they were trying to do something, I don't even remember, like, Dooku and Asajj were in it, Sidious makes an appearance, but just as, like, a hologram, if I remember correctly. I don't really remember. It was very uneventful. It wasn't as bad as people, like, make it out to be, it just didn't look good.
Yeah,
Like, but then that's where you got the whole, like, Ahsoka was calling Anakin Sky Guy and, like, that shit.
what do you call her?
Snips.
Snips. Yeah.
So, honestly, if you never watched
I think that's
that
stupid. I'm just
movie,
gonna say
you would
it.
never know why he called her Snips.
Right.
But she never calls him Sky Guy.
The thing though
going
that I
forward.
feel, the Anakin that we see in Revenge of the Sith is not the same as the Anakin you see in Clone Wars. Like, to me, they seem like two completely different people. Like, Anakin in Revenge of the Sith is dry, kind of doesn't have much personality, you know. Like, in Clone Wars, he's like this hero and he's like got a big personality, and I don't know. Am I missing something?
It's there. It's just not as, like,
You know, like in Revenge of the Sith, you would have never even thought of Ahsoka or anything because like she didn't really exist at that point, I guess. But
well, I can see it. Like, honestly, like, when I used to feel that way, but if you actually sit down and watch all of it, like, I get it. Like, I can see, like, parts of Hayden Christensen's Anakin Skywalker being that same character. Like,
yeah,
I can see
guess
it.
so.
I just don't like that it looks more like Sam Witwer than it does Hayden
It
Christensen.
looks like dead on Sam Witwer.
Yeah,
Like, they literally use his like character model.
Yeah, the Anakin in the Clone Wars looks like Starkiller, like 1000%.
I got a good one for you guys. Loki.